The impudence, the audacity, the unmitigated gall of those knuckleheads of liberty podcasters, daring to voice opinions outside the mainstream of accepted thought. Listen if you dare. It's angry, it's funny, it's even sometimes sad, but it's always based on freedom and justice, as you will see. Here's our host, Jason McPhee.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty. We're coming at you on March 23rd, 2022, and all kinds of crazy things to talk about. And of course, Biden's always at the center of things. So and we'll be talking about him some this show. But before we get into any of it, let me introduce you to our panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon the Word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. Upper right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. My name's Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. So let's jump right into it. I mean, the laptop, Biden's family. Gosh, it's come back. It should have been an issue, before the election, and it wasn't because the powers that be decided it was Russian disinformation. A whole bunch of the intelligence community came out and signed a statement for Biden saying that they thought it was all Russian disinformation, even though the laptop existed and apparently was in the government's hands. And recently, Bill Barr has come out and saying that he thinks Biden absolutely lied about this during the debate with Trump. And he is the former attorney general under Trump. And of course, this shouldn't come as a huge surprise to anybody because Biden has a long and storied history of lying. He has lied throughout many of his other presidential campaigns to the point where when lying used to be important, he actually had to step down when he was caught plagiarizing other people's speeches and such to sort of make himself look a little better. Certainly that's no surprise with some of the crazy words you hear coming out of Biden's mouth that he'd want to steal somebody else's. So, but anyways, what do you guys think about this? I mean, this is crazy. We literally have a guy in office who might very well not have been in office had these intelligence community creeps not come out and apparently lied for Biden, because they apparently straight up lied for Biden. I mean, there was a investigation going on, and yeah, it's crazy. What do you guys think about that?
There's a bigger issue here that, sure, politicians lie. We know that, okay? And we can't get away from that. Every time they move their lips, they're lying. We know that. Whether you're a Republican, you're a Democrat, or a Libertarian, well, I hope the Libertarians don't lie as much, but they certainly do lie from time to time.
Well, I want to push back on that just a little bit, because most libertarians don't want power, so we have a lot less reason to lie. I just wanted to. Our incentives are a little bit different there. But anyways, go ahead, Leon.
Fair enough. I will accept that, Jason. But the point is, though, the dangerous thing about all of this is that there's an entanglement ongoing between the government and big tech and the mainstream media. So when Joe Biden was running for the presidency, we knew the laptop was in existence. The New York Post brought it out, but these people decided that they had to ban it. Why? To protect Joe Biden. Okay, so this is where the Democratic Party, and now the Democratic Party is controlling the federal government. The Democratic Party is getting entangled with the government, and this is a dangerous trend that we are seeing here. True, everybody, all them politicians lie. I will accept this, but this is serious stuff, because this stuff involved the corruption in the Biden family, and it is serious. It is deep and serious, but everybody want to keep quiet about it. You know why? Because they're on the left. If this was the Trump family doing this crap, he probably would have been in prison or impeached twice already. But no, it's the Bidens. They're on the left. So we have to protect them. But government and the media is becoming entangled, and this is a dangerous trend within our republic.
I just wanted to add something real quick, Tim, before you go on. You mentioned the New York Post, and the New York Post did come out with a story about this. They're the ones who broke it. Yes. And literally they were called fake news by everybody, and Twitter and I believe Facebook I guess they banned their articles about it, and they kicked them off.
They froze the account of the New York Post, and nobody could retweet or repost the story.
Nope.
They stopped them from doing it.
I just want to make sure that was clear for the listeners.
Yes, fair enough.
Well, my sources of reliable information is dwindling rapidly. I used to be able to pull few things off Facebook, but now I can rest assured that that's all baloney as well as the mainstream media stuff, which I know for sure is, if it's not baloney, then it's just so innocuous that it wouldn't matter one way or the other. Like, oh, the man landed on the moon today. Okay, news at 11. Or there was a tornado that went through New Orleans today. Okay, news at 11. So all that kind of just reporting on facts is one thing, but all this stuff that's related in any way politically to anybody, left or right, I can rest assured that, if they're telling me that Donald Trump is in the pocket of Putin, or that the laptop story about Biden is complete rubbish, then how can I trust any of it from any of these places? So once again, I fall back on podcasts of people that I trust when they interview people who are deeply involved in these things, on not just a reporting basis, but an actual either on hand or extremely knowledgeable about the thing going on. For example, if there was a aircraft accident, and the scenarios were, or the causes were being talked about it when the NTSB had not had time to really factually look into everything, then I would expect that at least an aviation expert being interviewed for 30 minutes on the subject might give me some reliable information, not a 30-second soundbite on CNN or on Facebook, as far as that goes now. So I could just throw that stuff out the window. And is it serious? Yeah, I think it is. I'd rather be divulged with all kinds of different information than I would have just the information selected by a select few of so-called do-gooders that know better than I about anything and everything. So I'd rather have some non-factual stuff and let me sort through it. Now I'm just coughing, so I'm going to quit.
But the other dimension of this, Jason, you mentioned that when this story first came out, it is called Russian disinformation. It was called fake news. Twitter and Facebook banned it and all that kind of stuff. Nobody could retweet the links or anything like that. But a fascinating thing just happened just recently, just like I don't know, less than 2 weeks ago, where the New York Times now, not the New York Post, the New York Times have actually verified the authenticity of the laptop. They actually verified it. But what do we get from the media now? Before the election, they were loud and clear. They were telling us it was fake news. They were telling us it was Russian disinformation. But now that the New York Times have verified the authenticity of the laptop, what do we get? Silence. Absolute silence. No apologies, no nothing. Just silence.
Yeah, so certainly from the people who are on the bad end of this, but because this is one of the disturbing things too, because the New York Times came out and said something about this, now suddenly it's given credibility to some people to come out and talk about it, which is why everybody's talking about it now, that it wasn't happening before. Now, certainly Biden and Jen Psaki and the usual suspects, that we see on that side of the aisle, they're all silent now. And they're all, before they called it fake Russian disinformation. And now suddenly it's all, you'll have to talk to their lawyers. So I mean, it's pretty interesting, I guess, illumination of things. But it does bring up, though, here we have nobody takes it really seriously until the New York Times says okay. So that the idea that the New York Times has that kind of pull on the trigger to allow people to move on stuff is kind of scary. I mean, and the idea that they can modulate that timing to when it benefits their political lean is pretty disturbing, I think.
You know,
Yeah,
this is a
I think
major,
that's
this,
equally.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
I just say I agree with Jason. I think that's equally disturbing as the fact that the Facebook, Twitter crowd will jump on the bandwagon and hide all this stuff. In addition, just so why should we wait for CNN or the Times to come out and put their blessing on it? Why?
Sure.
Why, Leon?
Well, I wish I had the answer to that, Tim, but I think this is a major failure in the direction of our great republic, because we now need, according to, I guess, the powers that be, we now need the New York Times to tell us, or some other left-wing outlet to tell us that something is authentic before we could believe it, or before we could read it on Facebook or Twitter, or before we are free to talk about it without being called a Russian asset or Russian disinformation spreader or something like that. This is disturbing. This is seriously disturbing. Now, Jason, I totally agree with you. This is disturbing.
And keep in mind, too, this is the same group that's behind the 1619 Project, right?
Exactly.
I mean, the New York Times. So the idea that they clearly have a bent on a certain version of history, both past and going forward.
Yes.
It's a little bit disturbing that they have that much pull, but maybe we'll see an erosion of their pull as clearly these stories keep coming out one after another that shows that, hey, if you want to be first, don't read the Times, because clearly the Times is not leading the way with the news. They're actually recording. I mean, really, a story that is about a year and a half old, and now they're finally on it. I mean, wow, what bang up investigating journalism this is. The idea that they're telling us all about it. Is the Times now a history journal? Is that what we're dealing with here?
Yeah. Instead of the news, they ought to be calling themselves the olds.
Yeah. The New York olds.
The New York olds.
Well, this does bring up, though, I mean, that now there are becoming more and more new outlets that people are starting to turn to and starting to splinter away. And, Joe Rogan has recently also come out, and he's just a guy with a podcast who is, also calling BS when he thinks he sees it. And he is calling BS on this now. He is saying that, Biden and the media lied about the laptop. And of course, he's the biggest podcaster in the country. So that brings a little weight. But, one of the things I wanted to add on to this, though, before I hand it over to you guys, is the idea that how much effort is being made by the administration and social media to silence him as well. So, I mean, it's not just the usual conservative sources, it's anybody who speaks out of turn. And, aside from all of the attacks that have been made about him over COVID and I'm sure about issues like this, one story that came out a couple months ago that I thought was pretty disturbing on this route is when the Surgeon General literally came out and tried to silence Joe Rogan, and saying that essentially, this is a person with authority in the government who is literally trying to direct private entities to silence Joe Rogan. And let me read you the quote, because here's what he said to MSNBC back in January. He said, "We can have the best science available. We can have the best public health expertise available. It won't help people if they don't have access to accurate information. People have the right to make their own decisions, but they also have the right to have accurate information to make that decision with. This is not just about what the government can do. This is about companies and individuals recognizing that the only way to get past misinformation is if we are careful about the way we say and use the power that we have to limit the spread of misinformation." And of course, who's identifying the misinformation? He's identifying misinformation, saying whatever Joe Rogan and the experts that Joe Rogan is interviewing. Because remember, he was interviewing literally one of the guys who I can't remember his name at the moment, but who
Dr.
was
Malone. I think his name Dr.
Dr.
Malone.
Malone, yes, who was one of the designers of the technology for the vaccine that everybody is using and that they're trumpeting in the administration. And they're calling him misinformation. They're calling anybody who doesn't go along with their tune misinformation. So, you're free to decide whatever you want, but we're going to very closely limit the choices of what you can say you want, essentially by not letting you hear anything, essentially. So anyways, you guys want to go ahead with the Joe Rogan issue? And
about Joe Rogan, I just want to say in the article, it says he's very large. He's outpacing their viewership, the viewership of these mainstream media types. So that's what they're angry about, is that they're being outpaced by this guy on the internet. And that's the beauty of the internet, the beauty of podcasts, like ours, as far as that goes, and anything else that's out there. It used to be when I was growing up and all the way through my adulthood until just recently, all you had was Channel 3, ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox came along late in the game.
1996, Tim. Go ahead, yes.
That's pretty darn late. That's not that long ago. So all you had was the three major news outlets, and they all trumpeted the same old stuff. They all got their stuff from whatever that main source is, and that's it. And that's all you had. I mean, unless you read a book, which was not as easy as listening to a podcast on your way to work. Let's face it. So today we have a plethora of information sources. And oh my gosh, you got to do some work. You got to listen to it. You got to decide for yourself. Well, if is this person full of malarkey or are they worth listening to? And then eventually, if you find somebody like a Joe Rogan or Tom Woods or whoever has a podcast you trust, and the people that he brings or he or she brings onto the show you trust, or at least you want to listen to, then do it and stop watching television. Just stop right now.
Tim, you're right. I think it's a good thing. We have competition out there, and there are many sources of information for us to go to. I go to a variety of them. I do look at CNN and all of them and that kind of stuff, CNN.com in particular. Yeah. But I also go to a lot of other sources that I find more trustworthy. So I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing about the competition. But I really I'm disturbed and concerned about this government intent to limit the so-called spread of misinformation. Because this is, if you listen to what Jason just quoted, the last sentence there by the Surgeon General was about we have whatever powers we have that we can use to limit the spread of misinformation. Well, who the hell is going to determine what misinformation is? We want the Biden administration to determine what misinformation is. But I don't want, and this is where I have my issue, I don't want the government at all attacking the First Amendment. That is why we have the First Amendment in the first case, to prevent the government from intruding into what we hear, what we listen to, and what we believe. We have to keep these people out of our lives, but they are trying to intrude upon it by attacking the First Amendment. This is what we were talking about this war on the First Amendment. We have to be careful that these people don't lead us down a very dirty path into nothingness that will destroy our republic. We have to be careful about this.
Let me rephrase that pompous tyrant's sentence. What powers do we have to repress freedom of speech is what he really was saying. Exactly what he was saying. What powers do we have, us pompous asses, to repress freedom of speech? Do you have to cut that, anyone? Anyway, there you have it.
Well, seeing as how you guys are so good and triggered right now over Biden's mishandling of and inability to to speak the truth. Let's jump into good guys with guns, Tim.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, this one.
Since we are so triggered.
Yeah, we're triggered. All right. Somebody else was triggered, but boy, was in an awful situation. This may run a little longer than normal, but this comes back from Chicago Tribune back in December of 2021, which was just not long ago. So I may have to shorten it just for my cough. 2 Rottweilers that were attacking a jogger in St. Charles are dead after the dog's owner and a man who intervened tried unsuccessfully to pull the animals off the woman that was being attacked. Until the man who has a concealed carry license fatally shot one of the dogs. So what had happened is this lady, I'm going to have to paraphrase, this lady was jogging and stopped in front of a neighbor's house whom she knew. And the neighbor's little dog, a little Yorkie or something, ran out and greeted the jogger. The jogger picked up the dog and walked it up to this woman's house. While doing so, the woman also had 2 Rottweilers. Why do these people have so many dogs? Anyway, just aside. So the Rottweilers thought that the jogger was doing something bad to the little dog because she was holding it, and it's a Labradoodle is what it was. So it was holding it by its collar. They came out and started attacking the lady, and this went on for quite a few minutes. This lady required some 165 stitches or something to she underwent surgery. Anyway, she made it, but barely. So what happened? The concealed carry guy did not have his firearm with him, so he asked his dad to go grab it. I guess he lived nearby. Dad brings the gun over. Guy takes the gun, presses up against one of the Rottweilers in what the sheriff or the police thought was an extremely tactical use of the firearm. Good tactical use. Just right up against the dog, pulled the trigger, killed that dog. The sound chased the other dog off, and then the owner had the other Rottweiler euthanized afterwards. So the bottom line is, and this guy was lauded by the police as doing the right thing, the guy with the gun, and saved the woman's life, because there's nothing they could do to get this dog off this woman. The 2 dogs, they said they were throwing her around like a rag doll, and nothing they could do to help the woman until they brought the gun out. So sometimes you got to be a good guy with a gun, and maybe your target is a dog. Dogs can kill people and have many times in the past. So there you have it.
Well, maybe they should ban dogs now. Maybe that's
ban big dogs.
We have
big dogs. Yeah.
we have gun control, so it's time for dog control now, since the dogs can kill, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Have a dog registry, and we may be giving them too many ideas here.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. We got to be careful here. We got to be really, really be careful.
Yeah. Well, I think, we're just about ready to get into our Knucklehead Noise Patrol now. And this one's kind of an interesting one. We were kicking this around a little before the show, but it's got a few interesting aspects to it. And in this particular one, the military actually seems like their concerns are out of proportion with respect to COVID. Yeah, I guess is the best way to say it. They back in March, I guess, early March, it sounds like the U.S. Navy ordered a destroyer, one of their destroyers, to be docked instead of deployed as it was intended to be, because the commander on the ship refused to get a COVID vaccine. This seems, we're kind of on military alert, it seems like right now. I mean, we've literally got a war going on with the superpower that's
Yes.
occurring. And so you would think this would be really important to make sure.
There's a threat. There's a threat of nuclear weapons out there.
Yeah.
Too? Okay.
Yeah. You'd think it would be really important to make sure that our resources were deployed wherever they need to be deployed. But, They said, this guy, he's not, he hasn't been vaccinated, and so there's a safety risk there. But anyway, here's exactly what the quote was from the admiral. Okay, this is Admiral Daryl Claude, and this is apparently a comment within the court, the military court, I guess, about it. He says, "In the deadly business of protecting our national security, we cannot have a sailor who disobeys a lawful order to receive a vaccine because they harbor a personal objection, any more than we can have a sailor who disobeys the technical manual for operating a nuclear reactor because he or she believes they know better." And it's just weird that, you're putting this on par, not taking the vaccine, with messing around with the controls on a nuclear reactor. So anyways, I kick this off to you guys here. I know you guys have some comments.
Well, I mean, it is very dangerous what this military is doing. They're going woke with a lot of the nonsense they're doing. But there's a little complicated issue involved here with this particular case. Even though you can never understand, there's a war going on and there's nuclear weapons potentially involved. You'll want all of the people out there in the military theater trying to fight, or defend our great land. But in this particular case, there's a little complicated issue here, which is whether a member of the Navy, in this case it's the Navy, can disobey a lawful order. And the order was that he had to take the vaccine. Now, if it's a private citizen, a civilian like me, sure, I could make noise with my employer about that. That's a different matter. But when you're in the Navy, you sign that piece of paper saying that you're going to obey all lawful commands. And there's nothing illegal about the command to take the vaccine. So that's the complicated issue. Right now, a judge has put an injunction upon it, and he's telling, well, no, you can't punish the officer right now. But it complicates the matter. But you do raise an interesting point, Jason, which is, I mean, okay, fine, it's a vaccine against COVID. I mean, God, should we be more concerned about the COVID than about protecting the national security of our land? Come on, all right? Even though it's a complicated issue.
This is the healthiest group, right? That's as far as their response. These are all young men on this ship.
Exactly.
Anyways,
yes.
over to Tim there. What do you think, Tim?
Well, I'm kind of torn, like Leon probably. Okay, sure. You've got maybe you're against having that order to get the vaccine, but the guy not only disobeyed that, but he also had COVID symptoms and came back to the ship and started working there without telling anybody. Right. So, it's not just one thing, it's two or who knows how many other things. I think he also went away, something about where he was going that wasn't disclosed, that also was not liked by his superior. So you got to obey the orders. I'm sorry, it's not normal life. And there we are, up against time.
It almost seems like the orders, though, are like, your shoes aren't polished correctly. I mean, at least on the spectrum of things. But, we have orders, too, and our time is just about up. So thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you at the next one. Till then, stay free.
Yes, indeed. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.